Right now, while you're reading this, somewhere a person who feels perfectly healthy is asleep, and inside their arteries the pressure is climbing. They won't feel it. There's no pain, no warning, no alarm, but for some people, the hours before sunrise are the single most dangerous stretch of their entire day. Here's what the research actually shows. Strokes and heart attacks don't strike at random, they cluster in the early morning. One large analysis found nearly a 50% jump in strokes in the hours around dawn. And a big part of why traces back to what your blood pressure does in the dark while you sleep. I've spent a long time going through the cardiology research on this, and three things stand out. First, why your blood pressure is supposed to drop at night, and what it means when it doesn't. Second, the exact window each morning when your heart is under the most strain. And third, the one I most want you to hear, a few simple things you can do to find out if this is happening to you and lower the risk. That last part is the reason to stay to the end. But to understand the danger, you first have to understand what a healthy night is supposed to look like. So let me show you. If you're over 60, you've probably been told to watch your blood pressure. Maybe a doctor glanced at a number, said keep an eye on that, and sent you on your way, with no real explanation of what it means or what to do. That's frustrating. You deserve better than a shrug. Here's the part almost no one explains. The single reading you get at the doctor's office is a snapshot. It tells you almost nothing about what your pressure does across 24 hours. And especially nothing about the most revealing time of all, which is while you're asleep. Because your blood pressure isn't one number. It rises and falls on a daily rhythm like a tide, and the shape of that tide overnight turns out to be one of the most powerful clues we have about heart and stroke risk, more powerful in some studies than the daytime number your doctor actually checks. A quick, important note before we go further: this is general information, not medical advice, and nothing here is a reason to change your medication. Talk to your doctor before you change anything. With that said, let me show you what your blood pressure is supposed to do at night. Let's start with the most fundamental question. What is healthy blood pressure supposed to do while you sleep? The answer surprises most people. It's supposed to fall. In a healthy adult, when you lie down and drift into deep sleep, your nervous system shifts gears, the stress signals quiet down, your heart rate eases, and your blood pressure drops, typically by 10 to 20% compared to your daytime levels. Doctors have a name for people whose pressure behaves this way. They're called dippers. And being a dipper is a good thing. That nightly drop is your cardiovascular system getting its only real rest in 24 hours. Your arteries get a break. Your heart works less. Think of it like a factory that runs hard all day and then at night finally powers down so the machinery can cool. Now here's where it gets serious. In a lot of people, and the odds go up with age, that nightly drop doesn't happen. The pressure stays high all night long. These people are called non-dippers. And in some cases, it's worse than that. The pressure actually rises at night, higher than it was during the day. Those people have a name too. They're called risers. If you're a non-dipper or a riser, your heart and arteries never get that nightly rest. They're under pressure 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including the 8 hours you assumed were your body's downtime, and your body simply isn't built to run at full load with no recovery. So what does that do over time? This is where the research gets hard to ignore. Failing to dip at night is linked again and again to the things none of us want. It's associated with thickening of the heart muscle, with damage to the small vessels in the brain, with kidney strain, and with a higher rate of stroke and heart attack. And here's the key part: independent of your daytime blood pressure. Meaning two people can have the exact same reading at the doctor's office, and the one who doesn't dip at night can be carrying a meaningfully higher risk. The office visit would never catch it. Consider someone in their mid-60s, let's call her a typical patient profile, because this pattern is common. Daytime pressure looks borderline, doctor says watch it, but overnight her pressure never drops. It hovers high through the whole night, every night. On paper, she looks like a wait-and-see case. In reality, her cardiovascular system has been running a double shift for years, and no one knew because no one looked at the right window. And that's the quiet tragedy here. This is one of the most measurable, most predictive warning signs in all of cardiovascular medicine, and most people will never have it checked because a standard office visit isn't designed to find it. So you might be wondering, why does this happen? Why would the body fail to do something as basic as resting at night? Part of it is the nervous system staying switched on when it should switch off. Part of it can be how the kidneys handle salt overnight. And one cause is so common and so overlooked that it deserves its own mention, but I'll come back to that because it connects directly to the next thing I need to show you. Because the overnight pattern is only half the story. The truly dangerous moment isn't the middle of the night at all, it's what happens in the hour or two around when you wake up. And once you understand the morning surge, the early morning timing of strokes and heart attacks suddenly makes terrible sense. So your pressure has been low through the night if you're a healthy dipper, Then in the hours before you wake, your body starts preparing for the day. And it does that with a chemical wake-up call. As morning approaches, your body releases a wave of stress hormones. Adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol. They're the reason you can get out of bed and function. They raise your heart rate, they tighten your blood vessels, and they push your blood pressure up, sometimes by around 20% in the span of just an hour or two. This is normal. It happens to everyone. It's called the morning surge. For most people, that surge is a gentle ramp. But in some people, and again, this becomes more likely with age, with existing high blood pressure, with diabetes, with kidney disease, and with poor sleep, that surge isn't a gentle ramp. It's a violent jump. The pressure rockets up fast and high. And now line that up with the timing of actual cardiovascular events. Heart attacks, strokes, and sudden cardiac death all peak in the first 4 to 6 hours after waking. One large analysis found roughly a 40% excess risk of heart attack in the morning hours compared with the rest of the day. For stroke, the morning jump was close to 50. These aren't small effects. The early morning is for the cardiovascular system the most hazardous window of the entire 24-hour cycle. Why? Because in those pre-dawn and early waking hours, several things stack on top of each other at the worst possible time. Your blood pressure is surging, your heart rate is climbing, and your blood is actually more prone to clotting in the morning. Put those together, and you've created the exact conditions where a vulnerable spot in an artery can give way. It's not one factor. It's a pile-up, and it happens right around the moment your alarm goes off. Now, if you're still with me, this next part is the most important, and it's where a lot of people tune out without realizing they're leaving right before the useful part. So stay with me for the next few minutes, because this is where it becomes something you can actually act on. Researchers have put numbers on the surge itself. In one study following older adults for several years, for every 10-point jump in that early morning rise in pressure, the risk of stroke went up by about 22%. 22% for each 10 points of surge. That tells you the morning spike isn't just a curiosity on a graph. The steepness of your own personal surge appears to carry real risk. And here's the piece I promised to come back to, the overlooked cause that ties the night and the morning together: sleep apnea. When someone repeatedly stops breathing during the night, each episode jolts the body, spikes the pressure, and prevents the normal nighttime dip. It's one of the most common reasons a person becomes a non-dipper, and most people who have it don't know they do. If you snore heavily, wake up gasping, or feel exhausted no matter how long you sleep, that's worth a real conversation with your doctor. So now you know the pattern: the pressure that won't fall at night, the surge that detonates in the morning, the window when events actually happen, which leaves the only question that matters: what do you actually do about it? And that's where I want to give you the single most useful thing in this entire video. Because there's one step, simple, cheap, and almost no one over 60 does it, that can reveal whether any of this is happening inside you. Here's the most important thing I'll say today, and I want it to land. For decades, the danger we've been talking about, the non-dipping, the overnight pressure, the morning surge, was nearly invisible. You could only catch it if a doctor happened to order a special 24-hour test, and most never did. That has changed, and the tool that changed it is something you can hold in your hand. It's the home blood pressure monitor. Not glamorous, not high-tech, but used correctly, it lets you do something your doctor's once-a-year snapshot can't. It lets you see your pattern instead of a single point. And your pattern is the thing that actually predicts risk. Let me show you exactly how to use it, because the timing is everything. Most people, if they check at all, check once, randomly, whenever they think of it. That tells you almost nothing. Instead, you want to capture the two moments that matter most. The moments we've been talking about this whole time. First, in the morning, within the first hour of waking, before coffee, before your medication, before breakfast. Sit quietly for 5 minutes first, feet flat on the floor, back supported, arm resting at heart level. Then take 2 readings a minute apart and write both down. That morning number is your window into the surge. Second, in the evening, before bed, under the same calm conditions. Now you have a morning value and an evening value, day after day. Do that for 1 to 2 weeks and bring the log to your doctor. And this is the part that changes everything. You've just handed them something a single office visit can never provide: a picture of your blood pressure across time. A consistently high morning reading, or pressure that never seems to settle, is exactly the kind of pattern that tells a doctor to look closer, and may lead them to order the full 24-hour monitoring that can confirm whether you're a non-dipper. You've turned an invisible risk into something visible, something measurable, something that can actually be acted on. Think about what that means. The very thing that has quietly raised the risk for so many people, the fact that it hides while we sleep, is no longer hidden. Not because of some expensive new treatment, because of a $40 device and the knowledge of when to use it. That's the part one find genuinely hopeful. You are not helpless in front of this. You have a flashlight now, and you know where to point it. And if your numbers do turn out to run high in the morning, there are real, proven paths forward. And they're a conversation between you and your doctor, never a decision you make alone or from a video. The timing and type of medication can sometimes be adjusted. Treating sleep apnea can restore the nighttime dip. Salt, alcohol, movement, and sleep all move these numbers. None of that is something to chase on your own. But none of it can even begin until someone sees the pattern. And now you know how to make it visible. So here's exactly what I'd encourage you to do this week. 1. If you don't own a home blood pressure monitor, get an automatic upper arm cuff, the kind that wraps around your bicep, not the wrist. Make sure the cuff fits your arm. The wrong size throws off the reading. 2. For the next week, take it twice a day, once within an hour of waking, before coffee and medication, and once in the evening. Sit quietly for 5 minutes first, every time the same way. Write down the date, the time, and both numbers. 3. Don't panic over any single reading. One high number means very little. What you're looking for is the pattern over the week, especially whether your mornings run consistently high. 4. Take that log to your doctor and ask one specific question. Do these morning numbers suggest I should have 24-hour ambulatory monitoring? That single question puts you and your doctor on the same page and may open the door to catching something an office visit would miss. And one more time, because it matters, this is general information, not a diagnosis and not medical advice. Don't change or stop any medication on your own. The goal here isn't to scare you or to replace your doctor. It's to walk into that office with better information than you've ever had before. That's a position of strength. Your heart has been beating for you without a single day off for 60, 70, 80 years. The least we can do is understand the one window each day when it's working hardest and give it a little help. You came in thinking about 3:00 You're leaving knowing how to actually watch what happens in those hours and what to do with what you find. That's real progress for one morning's coffee. If this was useful, the next thing you'll want to understand is the connection I only touched on today, how the quality of your sleep directly shapes these numbers. That's the video I'll have for you next, because the two are far more linked than most people realize. Take care of that heart of yours. It's been good to you. Time to return the favor.